So we systematically attacked the leaks and started with probably the most obvious leak and the easiest one to get to, which is the rear differential seal. Okay, so the first thing you see here is that some kind of fluid has been seeping around the wheel studs. You pull the drum off, take a quick look. The surface area is really nice. There's no grooves in it, and there's plenty of material left on the drum itself. The pad's in good shape, so the brakes are basically functional. Something seeping out, and if you look right up in here, it's an axle seal.
All right, while we let the gear oil drain out of the differential, I went ahead and pulled the drum off the driver's side. The side Kevin pulled off looked to be in good shape, and the shoes did as well. This side, not so much. It looks like the shoes were worn so bad that the rivets holding the friction material in place actually wore into the drum surface. And it looks like the grooves are too deep to be machined out, so these drums are going to have to be replaced. The shoes, well, they need to be replaced as well, but it's for a couple of reasons. Not just because they have a weird wear pattern because of the grooves in the drum, but because it looks like we've got some gear oil leaking on here from a bad axle seal, and it looks like maybe some brake fluid from a bad wheel cylinder. Let's check it out. And upon closer inspection, we definitely have some leaking seals in the wheel cylinder. And this fuzzy stuff you see on top is the shoe material mixing with the gear oil and the brake fluid. You need to get rid of it because nobody wants that in their lungs. So a quick wash down with brake clean gets it done. Let that dry and we can pull the axle shaft out.
Pulling the axles is pretty simple. It starts with the differential center pin retaining bolt, which comes out, and then the center pin typically just falls right out in your hand. From this point, the spider gears walk out quite easily, and then a simple push of the axle shaft inward releases the C-clip, which you can retrieve with a magnet. Pretty simple. Then the axle shafts can easily be extracted from the axle housing without affecting the rest of the carrier.
Now they do make special brake drum pliers and tools just for this job, but you can typically get by with just some common hand tools that you probably already own. And if you're not too familiar with working on drum brakes, we'll just leave the other side completely assembled. That way you have a reference. And these wheel cylinders, well, they are rebuildable, but it's usually not cost or time effective to do so. That is, unless you've got some rare vehicle where a rebuilt one's not available. It's still got a bunch of nasty in there. All right, now it's a good idea to loosen up the brake line connection to the wheel cylinder before you unbolt it from the backing plate so it doesn't try to spin on you. We also plugged the end of the brake line to make sure all the fluid didn't drain out of the line. We just make bleeding the brakes take that much longer. Now, a little bit of water neutralizes the brake fluid, and a little bit of brake clean washes everything down and dries quick, so we have a clean, dry surface to work with. Now, the new wheel cylinder obviously fits right in place and just retained by 2 bolts. Tighten them down, then attach your brake line. Now, reassembling the shoes is somewhat straightforward. But these little coil springs that keep the shoes pinned down to the backing plate can be a pain in the neck. They've got to be compressed a good little bit and then rotated 90 degrees until the retainer clip seats. There you go. At least that'll hold it in position. Then you just repeat the process on the other brake shoe, and then we just completed the installation with all the springs and small parts that came in our hardware kit. Again, using the passenger side drum as a reference.